The classic poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," helped create the modern image of Santa Claus, but it also sparked a controversy that remains unresolved to this day. Our national correspondent, John Frankel, has details.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
These are some of the most famous words in American poetry. For 170 years, the poem has been attributed to Clement Clark Moore, one of the most powerful men in New York City during the 1800s. Clement Clark Moore was a deeply religious man. He was a theology professor, a real estate magnate, and a part-time poet who spoke German and Hebrew. But did he really write the poem that made him so famous?
I was always told that it was stolen from our family.
Stephen Livingston Thomas is the great-great-great-grandson of Henry Livingston. His family has argued for generations that it was Livingston, not Moore, who wrote the poem. By all accounts, Henry Livingston was a jolly man who loved to write poems for kids. His children claimed he first recited the poem in 1808, years before it was printed anonymously in a newspaper in 1823. The Livingston legend was passed down until the new millennium, when Mary Van Deusen, another Livingston descendant, convinced literary sleuth Don Foster to help investigate.
What he said is if I was willing to get down and dirty and do the grunt work, that he was willing to use historical comparisons to see if he could prove it.
Foster sifted through hundreds of documents and was startled by the difference between "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" and Moore's writings.
If, regardless of my friendly voice, in fashion's gaudy scenes your heart rejoice, dire punishments shall fall upon your head, disgust and fretfulness and secret dread.
That's a poem by Moore. Not exactly ho-ho-ho material. But Foster says Livingston's rhymes, rhythms, and attitudes are similar to the holiday classic.
"'Tis New Year's," they shout and drag me along in the midst of their merry-make juvenile throng. But I burst from their grasp unforgetful of duty, to first pay obeisance to wisdom and beauty. On your patience to trespass no longer I dare, so bowing I wish you a happy new year.
Foster points to other inconsistencies. Moore hated tobacco, but St. Nicholas smokes a pipe. Moore changed the names of two of his reindeer in later versions of the poem. And prior to finally publishing the poem in his name, Moore sent a letter to the owner of the newspaper that first printed it, asking how they learned he was the author.
He got an answer back from the original publisher of this poem, who printed it anonymously, saying, Professor Moore, when I got this poem, I didn't know who wrote it, and I only learned you wrote it by hearsay.
Kathleen Holzer of the New York Historical Society is not convinced by Foster's argument.
If he was trying to cover his tracks or be sneaky in any way, he would have never written in a letter that everybody was going to read that he was looking into the matter.
But Foster believes he's found the truth.
The evidence looks pretty strong that Moore did not write The Night Before Christmas and that Henry Livingston did.
Several times.
The only way to settle the dispute is to find an original Livingston manuscript of the poem. That doesn't exist. But the Livingstons are comforted by the family history they share.
And that genealogy brings us together as people, as well as bringing out the truth of who the real author of The Night Before Christmas is.
We have won very big from this.
Who really wrote the poem may remain a mystery, but the pleasure derived from it for generations is perfectly clear. For The Early Show, I'm John Frankel.
That's right. Controversy or not, it's a poem a lot of folks are going to be reading this weekend.